Okay. So, yeah, we found that we've made a lot of these meetings, but we've recorded only since the last 2 or 3 months, and some of our meetings have been really good. We never know what we're gonna
Yeah.
get, So,
My experience is um, maybe 3 to 5% of outages, depending on how you measure it, were transmission based.
hmm,
Um, do you measure it by frequency, by customers affected, by load not served? There's multiple definitions of an outage.
right,
Always just measured it by how many meters were affected, because most of our load was residential.
right.
And yeah, it was on the order of 3 to 5% of our total outages were transmission based.
So when you say 3%, that's sort of weighted, right? So a major outage might hit almost everyone, whereas small outages in distribution systems could be what you're talking about, right?
Well, so we had 75,000 meters, and on average, our customers experienced, 2 outages a year. So that's 150,000 customer outages. Of those, 7,500 would have been attributable to a transmission outage. Now, there were certain years where that was a lot worse, like 2011, the tornadoes in North Alabama took out the entire North Alabama TVA's transmission system in North Alabama, and we lost power to probably 25-30,000 people as a result of that.
Mhm.
But that was rare.
I have no deeper knowledge, although I have to say I really trust Tom Stanton. He doesn't throw numbers around. But I will say that in New Orleans, until very recently, I don't know if it's improved, but about 8 years ago, there were dockets about reliability, and New Orleans was experiencing 2 or 3 thousand outages a year. And of course, they varied very greatly over how long they lasted. Some were just
Yeah.
a few seconds, and some were a few hours. The ones that people really care about are the hurricanes, where you might lose your food. Okay.
Yeah.
And or you have a business who has to shut down when they have a restaurant full of people. But in general, people are pretty tolerant of short outages in New Orleans. So,
Yeah. Um, you know, my expectation is that if they had 2 to 3,000 outages a year, 80% of them involved less than 20 people.
oh yeah, I suspect you're right. Anyway,
Squirrels wreak havoc on
yeah, I know. Actually,
urban power systems.
I'm going to make sure you've met Daniel and Richard, who are on there with it. And this is Michael Watson's on.
Hey,
Um,
Daniel.
I think
How you
we've done
doing?
your intros
Good.
before, but if you felt like you haven't given an intro, go ahead, Dan, give us an intro.
I'm just a New Orleans architect with a interest in utility practices, regulations, rates, and all that. I'm a green architect, very green.
Right. So, I want to go to the meeting call. I'm going to share the screen, but I'm not going to do everything I promised because I've got a bit of a pushback on it. So I'm going to go to this other screen. And the meeting call is here on the screen. You can see, hopefully you can see the what I said I was going to talk about. And so I said I was going to talk about two items, the community solar docket that's still open and the distributed energy resource docket, but having spoken to some of my team leaders, they asked me to not talk about the second issue. If people feel like I'm doing a tease, you need me to talk about it a little bit, I will, but I won't emphasize it. But I do want to talk about what I said, what is in the community solar docket and what did we propose? So what we proposed is hybrid rooftop community solar. And I suspect Michael's never heard of that because we invented it here. So what is it? So rooftop solar, you're aware of that. That just means someone puts solar panels on their roof, and that's very common. Okay. Community solar, on the other hand, is not so common, and it still hasn't gotten a foothold in New Orleans. But the fundamental idea is that the solar energy gives you a credit on your bill, even if the solar power plant, the photovoltaics is not at your home. That's the core idea of community solar. But community solar has been become more mature with certain extra ingredients that wasn't in my original concept of community solar. But what's in the New Orleans community solar docket is pretty close to completion, and it contains a component where there are actually three elements of the process. There is someone with a community solar farm, and they make electricity. And then there's subscribers who either rent or buy a piece of the community solar farm, and that supports the economics of the solar farm. And for that ownership interest, whether it's rented or owned, they get a percentage of the solar output, depending upon what amount of the solar plant they've bought or rented. And so if it makes, say, 50 kilowatt hours and you own 1/5, then you get 10 kilowatt hours. And of course, you can multiply any way you want to get the real number. And then the question is, how does that bill credit get to you, which wasn't really hammered out until over the last 2 years, when Madison Energy Industries, a company that seems to have quite a few community solar farms around the country, approached New Orleans saying, we know you're trying to do community solar. This is how we think you should do it. And they want the utility to provide a bill credit onto the customer who is a subscriber to the community solar farm. And so that creates a triangle, namely each person in the entity, this community solar farm makes electricity, and the subscriber owns a piece of the action, and the utility pays the subscriber based on his percentage of ownership. And so that's what community solar is. So how can you do hybrid rooftop community solar? And that is, suppose a person has a rooftop solar array, and they say, okay, well, I might get the most bang for my buck if I use all of that rooftop solar for lowering my utility bill. But I also might have more solar than I can use. In which case, what do I do with the excess? Well, with hybrid rooftop community solar, you have a way to do something with the excess. And what you do is, whether you do this on a temporal basis, namely you use the solar array sometimes like 5 minutes an hour or 50% of a month or whatever, some of the time or half of the solar array, you treat some of it, whether it's how much or when of that array, and you say that is the kilowatt hours produced at that time, I'm going to sell in a community solar way. And the simplest way to think of it perhaps might be, I have 10 kilowatt array in my house. I don't need all that. I'm gonna make half of it a community solar array and half of it for me. So I get half the electricity to lower my utility bill, and the other half I sell to someone else. Okay, you'd say, well, how?
Myron, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Um, were you aware of the meta plant that's being built?
I'm sorry.
Are
But
you aware of the meta distribute data plant that's being proposed in Louisiana?
yes, but I'm
Are
not
you
sure.
aware of how much electricity it's going to use?
I'm not surprised if it's going to be a big deal, but
Um,
I'm not sure why we're talking.
One facility is going to use twice the amount that New Orleans uses annually. Over twice,
Okay,
over 2 times the amount of an entire city
would you
Meta's
rather
going
we
to
talk
use.
about that
And
instead
you're
of this?
talking about one guy's rooftop and sharing their little bit of pity of kilowatt hours that he might or might not have extra. I I can't believe you're sitting here talking about that instead of something more important.
Okay, well, I plan on only talking about it for 10 minutes, and then we can talk about anything you want after that, okay? But I will tell you why I'm doing it, okay? I'm doing it because I think innovations like this solve a variety of problems. It's true, when hybrid rooftop community solar was envisioned, we weren't talking about the tremendous amount of excess um, demand that these artificial intelligence centers were doing, and we were hoping to continue to lower our demand in order to lower our climate impact. And this does it. But it addresses a variety of problems which exist regardless of whether or not there's this meta plant you're talking about. So let me just finish talking about it. Should be only 5 more minutes. So because a person has rooftop solar, they can say use half their array for community solar. And what this does is in New Orleans, we have around 80 megawatts of rooftop solar. And anyone with rooftop solar is really discouraged to invest in energy efficiency because they never get a net income. And we're still waiting for the first community solar farm to be built in New Orleans because the rules still haven't been settled. And until they do, no one's going to build any. And the first one might be around 5 megawatts. And so it's years away, maybe a half a decade away before we'll get any community solar this way, where we can get it almost instantaneously with hybrid rooftop community solar. And the kilowatt hours that you would sell, you would be able to sell because you would be buying them in effect by buying energy efficiency. Energy efficiency costs on the order of half, 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt hour versus the normal retail price of around 12. So it's way cheaper, it's a lot faster, improves the economics of rooftop solar, and encourages energy efficiency. So that's why it's there. Now, Dan, I don't deny that what you're talking about is critical and important, but I'm not sure we can do anything about it. But as I said, I'll stop talking and let you can talk about what you want to talk about,
So
Dan.
I was on an hour-and-a-half call just prior to this call from the Alliance for Affordable Energy and other groups in Louisiana who all combined, and the Louisiana Commission, Utility Commission, is meeting Wednesday to ram 3 new gas plants and some carbon sequestration that's questionable down our throats. We got 5 uh, bought for, well, maybe 4 bought for utility commissioners who are going to ram this down our throats. And you're saying you don't know what you can do about it? What are you doing Wednesday?
Well, I don't know what you mean about what I'm doing. I'm certainly not going to Baton Rouge.
Why not?
Well, because I'm 77 and I drive to Baton Rouge, I fall asleep on the way.
Oh, okay.
And I already have
Did
other
you
things
write? Did you write your commissioners?
I did not write. And there's only there's only 2 commissioners that will listen to me, Devontae Harris and the guy in Northeast,
Right.
Forster Campbell. And everyone knows how those 2 guys are going to vote, and everyone knows how the other 3 guys are going to vote. And I don't deny that it's important. I also don't like, fighting windmills. Okay, and I like to do something that might have,
Okay, well, let's focus on community solar. What you're proposing is illegal
why?
because Entergy is the only generator in the state that's going to be allowed to sell electricity in the city.
No, I'm sorry. Community solar means anyone who has a community solar farm can sell their electricity through this mechanism. Whether you do it,
To an individual?
yes. Okay, so if you have a community solar farm, the way the city community solar
Yeah,
doc,
they become a generator. That's different than an individual with solar panels on their house becoming a hybrid seller.
oh, wait. You really want to talk about this? I'd be delighted to. Okay, so the community solar idea was first popped up in a process you participated in, which is the New Orleans Energy Policy Task Force in 2005. We proposed it then. In 2018, and was codified in a sense when we released our final report in 2007. More than a decade later, the City Council took up community solar in 2018, and wasn't until 2019 that they produced rules. How no one ever used those rules because they wouldn't work economically. But there were two kinds of community solar farms promulgated in the rules. On rooftops, you could take a solar array on your roof as long as it didn't do anything else. It could be a community solar farm, whether it's 2 megawatts or 2 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts. It was absolutely in the rules. And those rules haven't really been thrown out. However, what most people concentrated on was the 2 megawatt maximum for large solar arrays, which is what they were really focusing on. And they created rules for that. So when Madison Energy Industries came in and said, we want 5 megawatt solar arrays, not 2 megawatts, they're too small to be economical. And we want we want the utility to do the transfer, but it's true, these community solar farms will make electricity and they get sold to the customers through the actions of the utility by the recommendation, which was accepted by, promoted by Madison Energy Industries. And there was a big discussion about what would be the remuneration, how much would people get paid for these kilowatt hours? And that's another thing that was decided in the last 3 years. They would be paid at retail prices. And so all that is set up. It's all decided. What's left over is whether or not the utility will actually follow up on doing the transfer. All literally happens is if you say I'm a subscriber to XYZ community solar farm and I deserve a fixed percentage, 1, 2, or 3%, then you will get the kilowatt hours generated by that community solar farm that month as a bill credit on your utility bill. That's how it's set up. And it's most efficient. It's the most common way community solar is done. So it isn't whether this is going to happen. It is going to happen, but there's some details that the utility is fighting because they don't want this to happen. And so what we've proposed is not just focusing on the 5 megawatt solar arrays, but also allow the existing rooftop solar customers, and there's already 80 megawatts of their solar panels on there, and this opens them up to sale. And this means that a person who has a rooftop solar array probably has on the order of 80–90% of their consumption met by their solar array. And the reason why I say the percent is that high is because many of these solar arrays were put on half a decade or a decade ago. And since then, the energy efficiency of appliances has gone up greatly. So it's quite probable that their solar array output and their consumption are very much on par to each other. But they'll never get more efficiency than solar because the remuneration with net metering never pays you anything if you have more production than consumption. But with hybrid rooftop community solar, you get paid for your excess production. So this is not a maybe, Dan. This is
Yeah, I'll
is
believe
happening.
it when I see it.
So you don't believe community solar ever happened in New Orleans?
Not on any scale, no.
Well, there are a lot of people, there's hundreds of people in the docket. And a lot of transactions have occurred in that docket in the last 2 weeks. I could show them to at least
I mean,
30,
communications?
yeah, communications.
So that's not a transaction,
No, you're
but
right. It's communications, and the utility advisors, Denton's, submitted interrogatories to around 10 or more of the interveners who wanted to say how they think the utility should do these on-bill payments. And that process went on. So it's not like this is a maybe happening. It's sure is a train that seems to be arriving at the station. And the only thing that we are not happy about is there's been no consideration of our proposal of hybrid rooftop community solar, which we think would go a long way to improve this. Okay, so I don't mind writing a letter to these commissioners like you're talking about. I don't think there's much of a chance of anything happening because I write the letter. I might feel better, but I've got over a long time ago about doing things that feel better and instead try to do something that can make a difference. And you can argue, well, you've had these meetings every week for 4 years. What's making a difference? Well, it makes a
you've been
difference.
working on community solar for 18 years, 17 years since
I didn't say that.
I thought you did. I
No,
thought
I
you
didn't
said
say it.
2005,
I
20,
said
what, do the math.
what I said was that the New Orleans Energy Policy Task Force promoted community solar in 2007. It sat on some dust, it collected dust in some book on a shelf and ignored by the city council for 11 years. I wasn't working on community solar during that time. In 2015, I worked on ProRate, and I think that rate design has more legs than community solar. But at the time that they were doing it in 2018, there were over 20 states in the country that have community solar in one form or another. So it's not like they have to invent it. In fact, maybe someone else in the group knows more information, like Michael Watson is among the first people who joined this meeting. Did you have community solar in South Carolina, Michael?
I'm in Tennessee, and yes, the utility I worked at was one of the first utilities in the state to implement community solar. We sold, it was a limited partnership. We sold shares in the partnership to our member owners. It was $600 a share, and you got a bill credit on your bill every month for your pro rata production of the facility. And the typical payout was 6 to 8 years to recoup your $600.
So I don't think it's so hard. That's not as hard to do as stopping the train wreck that's going on in Baton Rouge. And so I would love to stop the train wreck in Baton Rouge if I really believed I had a shot. I will write the letter, but I don't know who might listen to it. Okay. It's not like Devontae Harris already represents us. We know how he's voting. And Varsity Campbell, we know how he's voting. And the other two, as you say, are bought and sold by the utilities. And
Well, there's also room for protections, not just letting it ram it down our throats, but to push for caps. Literally 3 gas plants for one facility. It's insane
well,
what's about to happen.
and I think what might be worth talking about because I definitely do not subscribe to this, but I think other people do, that an economy that doesn't have AI is limping. I don't have subscribe to that opinion, but I think there are people who do think that. And if we believe that, we know we are naive. But let's suppose we knew that you need a strong AI to have an economy of the future. Well, how are you going to get it? So I don't know that. I certainly don't subscribe to that idea.
Well, I mean, a lot of these data centers are talking about nuclear.
Oh, I know they are. And I'm sure that Michael would say that's a cleaner way to do it. By the way, Tor has his hand up, and I don't want to
Yeah.
discourage his comments.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Back when they were building steel plants that made the United States the dominant economic power over the world, it was the same thing. Nobody wanted where their first steel plants or all of the things that go with them. This is kind of just a modern incarnation. Somebody looked at a map and said, hey, we can put a data center here. As crazy as that sounds, if we don't get ahead of the rest of the world, well, let's just say it's not good position in a highly technical world to be second place.
Right. But at and at any expense.
To the people where these plants land, you're right. It's crazy.
Well,
I
I mean,
think they would do
it's
better by putting it in Texas or Arizona, but for some reason they want to build it in Louisiana.
well, the reason is political and energy. So 5 people are going to make this decision. They're all
Hey,
bought already. And so the reason they picked Louisiana is because they knew they could get away with it. And that's what's happened.
and there's a long history of this. It goes with gerrymandering and all the way back to Andrew Carnegie and the steel mills.
Okay, but I give up on trying to believe that we're going to solve Louisiana's political problems, but I think we might have a fruitful conversation if we ask ourselves, how badly do we need AI? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question, but some people think they do. Does anybody think they know?
Well, the question is also over what time period. There's some people that think AI as an industry will shrink greatly. And so here we are building 3 gas plants for one facility. If the efficiency of chips, I mean, we're going to be held foot in the bill for billions of dollars of construction and gas use. All the natural gas prices are going to go up. So our electricity bills are going to go up. And if they build this plant and they use it for 8 years, or and they're committed to 15 years, over the next 30 years, your kid and my kid is going to pay for it.
Well, I don't deny that, but I'm asking the question, do we need AI? I mean, yeah,
You
anybody have-
Myron, what do you mean by that question? Do we need AI?
what I mean is, I think AI is dubiously good. And some people think you can't have a dominant economy in the future if you don't dominate the AI space. What do you think?
Who is somebody? You're talking like fucking Trump.
Say it again.
I said you're talking like Trump. Who is somebody that says we can't have a future without AI? Who says that?
If I may defend, um, I'm looking at history, and the United States, because of its economic power, won both world wars. If you do not want to be in a dangerous world of the future, and second place. AI works into all kinds of things. It stands to revolutionize our healthcare system and dramatically lower the cost.
Oh, bullshit.
Oh,
Okay, there ain't
again,
nobody out there
yeah,
thinking
right.
AI is going to lower the cost of anything.
Wait a
That's
minute.
crap.
Wait, Chris.
And,
I
and
think
let's get back to the point. Every utility in the country has gone out and bought their fucking regulators. every utility in the country. Arizona is paying 45 cents a kilowatt hour in peak times. 45 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, you guys have got to get off of this pie in the sky shit and start focus on something we can do.
Okay. So what do you think we
I mean,
can
are
do,
we
Chris?
having an intellectual discussion? Is that what this group is? Or are we trying to advance a policy to make people's lives better? I want an answer.
Well, I keep
Because
suggesting
if we're
policy
just having a
choices.
discussion, okay, on Monday nights, you know, I don't see how that benefits anyone.
Well, I tell you,
I
I think
mean,
I'd rather be doing this than demonstrating. When I was 30 years old, I would go demonstrate, and I wondered whether anybody cared, what good it did, what mind did it change, what election did it change, which vote on a bill did it change, and I found almost never. So I don't demonstrate anymore.
so you decided that staying at home and talking with others that believe as you do is ultimately a better solution than protesting? I mean it, guys.
I think it has a
You
better.
are the smartest group of people that I have ever seen assembled in one place. But you ain't guys ain't done fucking nothing. You've not changed any policies. You've not advanced any agendas. You've done nothing except complain about the status quo.
No, that's not true. For example,
Okay, then what has been advanced, Myron? Have you reached out to the
well,
Alliance for Affordable Energy? Have you reached out to Together New Orleans and say, look, we want you to include this in what you're advocating? Have you done that?
absolutely have. And the extent
And
to
what
which
do they say?
and the extent to which we've been successful, I was asked specifically not to talk about tonight because I could undermine that success in this meeting. Okay. But if we look at it from another perspective, which isn't per se the Alliance for Affordable Energy's suggestion, Chris faded away, maybe he's coming back. But we did promote community solar in the New Orleans Energy Policy Task Force in 2005, and that's why we have an opportunity to do it in New Orleans into 2025, because we did it sometime and we have some momentum. But we did other things. We also promoted time of use rates in 2005, and we did it again in 2015. And the city council has considered it in a half-ass way. And as you say, as Michael will tell you, it's been successful in various places. Community solar has been successful in certain places, and time of use rates have been successful. And these things don't just happen. Somebody has to think about them and figure out how to package them and how to put them in a pilot and get some track records. And I go beyond that. I'm not interested in just solving the New Orleans problem. I'm interested in finding scalable solutions. That means things that can be done not just in New Orleans, but in many places around the country and the world. So the impact of what we're talking about could be big enough to have a real effect on climate change. Not just local climate change, but global climate change. That's
Are
what I.
you part of a solar farm startup? Are you going to do a solar farm?
No, I contribute in the way I can contribute.
You can contribute in that way. You have land, you have money.
Yes, and I also have obligations to keep my small process working. I've been running at a deficit for 5 years because the cost of running rental property, the costs are exceeding the income. And so I need to sell all these assets and get out of town because whether we're in a sinking ship or the cost of ownership and the cost of insurance and the cost of taxes eats it up. So I don't have a lot of cash flow.
But why are you fighting for um, community solar in New Orleans if you're leaving New Orleans?
I didn't say I'm leaving. I'm just finding community solar in New Orleans because I think community solar is a tool that's scalable and can be used around the country and around the world to lower carbon footprints. And in fact, there is a famous person whose name is Margaret Mead, who I am certainly misquoting her, but when you ask the question, how did these interesting ideas bubble up and become national movements? And she says they always start somewhere at the bottom. They never start at the top. They always start at the bottom. That's how they always do. She's an anthropologist. And that's what I'm doing. I'm contributing my ideas and having a conversation with my peers to see what floats. And in this case, I know there are over 100 people in the ProRate list and even more in the GNICC list. And when we make comments, they get to be seen by city council members and other movers and shakers. And sometimes they actually listen to us, but I think they're loath to give us credit for it because they want to own it themselves. I don't really know. So I do
But
think it'll make a
is
difference.
community solar farms, are they not going to be a profit center for the people who develop them?
They'll be a profit center for them, and there'll be a positive cash flow for the subscribers. As Michael
So
pointed out,
why not get out of the apartment business and get into the community solar farm business? It's going to be a profit there.
That's what Myron said, Dan. He said that he's working in a deficit the way it's going, and he's trying to reorganize himself so he can do something else. Is that right,
Right.
Myron?
well, I'm trying to make things work. For example, I'm using energy efficient lease so that I'm trying to not completely abandon my landlord business, but make a cash flow that's positive on an apartment that's otherwise hard to rent by using energy efficient lease, which also can be scalable. So I'm looking for solutions that actually implements some that I have complete control over. I'm very proud to say I just got a tenant for an apartment that's renting that way, and it has oodles of features where the utility bill, which is water and electric, is under $200 a month, which is very, very much lower than the average in New Orleans. And I know how to do it, and I'm doing it, and I'm hoping these things become scalable solutions for others. But the problem isn't just whether that number works, but it's also whether the apartment is rentable because because 95 or 99% of people rent based on location, not on utility bills. And so it's a lot of things that have to come together to make it work. So I can make my contribution and I try to make it work. And I work with Dan and I work with Norman when we try to participate in New Orleans energy efficiency programs in 2004, 2005, before Hurricane Katrina. We try to do that. We've tried many things. Some things have had more effect than others. In fact, we recommended integrated resource planning in the New Orleans Energy Policy Task Force. It was the only recommendation that was actually taken. And actually it was abused, and maybe we should feel bad that we did it, but it's not like we have no influence. We have influence. So, I don't know. I think people care about what we're doing and actually maybe, or we're too influential. I mean, I was told, take certain people off the list. They feel overwhelmed by the emails about jellyfish. Even though we know the emails about jellyfish are not cute and funny, they address the question about whether nuclear power plants are reliable. And that's not necessarily a complete answer, but it certainly puts a cloud on the issue. So it's not silly. Okay, even though if you don't know what you're reading and you don't see in context, you might think it's silly. Okay, so I don't know the answer to all that. Michael, are you selling your dog or something?
Oh, I'd give him away in a heartbeat, but my wife would kill me.
I think that holds true for most of us.
Oh no, I love my dog. He's over here next to me. He won't get anywhere else in the house, but always next to me. So, but he doesn't want to be on TV. But anyway, so far we've had a little bit of interesting exchange, which I don't mind. I like this, and I actually like the fact that we had a lot of content and a lot of disagreement in our threads over the last week. I think it's really healthy that we had an interesting debate, and the many of them I would have joined, but I thought it was doing fine without my help. But anyway, Dave, Tora wanted to say something. Go ahead, Tora.
I've got it in a PowerPoint if you want to see the heat wave. It is spectacular.
Oh, so what are you offering?
That's the heat wave in Antarctica is over the Thwaites ice shelf, glacier.
Okay, well, I think I can stop share and give you a shot at it. Let me see
Okay.
how to do that. Let me try. Um, let's see.
I mean, this relates and gives you a sense of urgency.
I'm going to stop share, but I don't know if I can let you share. Let's see. Okay, you want to try to share? Can you try to share it?
I'm going to send a request.
Yeah, I
You should.
allow. Yes. Go ahead and let us see your thing about the weather in Antarctica.
Okay. I'm worried about seeing this.
Well, we don't want to have our heads in the sand. Let's see
Okay.
what's going on.
This is today's reading. This whole area is coming in around 24 degrees Celsius, hotter than normal.
Holy cow.
I mean, the scale and size of it, I have never seen that big. You see these little pockets of above freezing area. Again, that's still in the winter of Antarctica, and it went above freezing on the Thwaites. That's where the Thwaites Glacier is right here. This is Pine Island. This is Thwaites. It was backed up. It dumped prodigious amounts of snow. I don't know. This is millimeters per hour, and so they clocked it in some places as 5 millimeters per hour, which is probably higher than that. Again, Antarctica, they do it all from space, and so you kind of have to say whatever they see from space is bigger on the ground. The precipitable water, which has been a big discussion in the geologist, this tongue of air, even though it's only about 10 kilograms per square meter, and then this is a column from the ground to space as measured by satellites, the fact that it got on to Pine Island and Thwaites, again, the mean temperature, the amount of moisture in Antarctic air is almost zero. I mean, it's right at the bottom of the thing. And to get this kind of cleavature in the moisture levels, again, it scored. This is at peg the scale. It's 6 sigma. That's it. That pegged the scale. This came close to pegging the scale.
Wait, stop a minute.
Yeah.
People may not understand what 6 sigma means. So the word sigma in statistics means one standard deviation. So
Right.
normally things are within a bell curve distribution, and 66% of all of the events occur within one standard deviation of the mean. But when you have a highly disrupted, unusual circumstance, there might be 2 standard deviations of the mean or 3. So he's talking about something that's 6 standard deviations from the mean. That's how unusual it is.
Wow.
And it would be like a person who is, are you a genius? Well, the average IQ is 100 by definition. If you are 2 standard deviations, then you have 120 IQ. If you have 3, you have 130. I have a cousin who got 160, so she's 6 standard deviations above the mean. That's how unusual this is. Okay. So anyway, putting that in perspective, you understand what she means by 6 sigma.
Yeah, the standard deviations. But this wasn't the only deviation. This mass here is going to hit soon. You've got something off on going out of Australia and something off South America. In other words, whatever model they had for the frequency of high moisture events in the southern hemisphere is broken. And that's why you get these insane readings. I've seen six standard deviations before on air masses. I've seen them down here and I've seen them over here. I haven't seen one that big. And it was backed up. There was a low pressure here, and it swept air. This is in knots per hour, which is like 60 miles an hour gale force winds blowing, and it went above freezing around here. That would have been 60 miles an hour in above freezing conditions.
Jeez.
And you understand, if you put a lot of snow on an ice shelf and an event like this melts the snow, which is very quick to melt, the water goes down the cracks and it weakens the internal structure. Big ice masses don't melt, they crumble. And the last is for the last couple of years, you've had this aureole of a large swath of below normal ocean temperatures, because as the air swept off Antarctica faster, it pushed the seawater away from Antarctica and chilled the water. That is now ending, where these lobes of significantly, this is like 4 or 5 degrees Celsius water, are getting closer right to the ice pack. And you put 4 or 5 degrees Celsius water next to an ice pack, it's not going to be there long.
Well, thanks for the good news, Tor.
I'm just reporting it as I saw it today, and I captured all 8 slides. That, you know, these things, if it's just one slide, one layer, it's one thing, but if it's all those layers.
Okay, well, anyway, this is why I often say, and I'm highlighting it on my screen, so I'm putting share up again. So on my screen and highlight it. So I'm going to highlight the phrase I'm talking about. Create scalable solutions that, if widely implemented worldwide, could rapidly slow climate change. That's been my goal from the get-go. And community solar is one such solution. Hybrid rooftop community solar enhances it. Time of use rates enhances it. I can't say I'm confident that I've had a big impact, but that's what I do. I create solutions and I try to sell them and get people to try it. So, but I will tell you what, when I promoted time of use rates in the 2015 integrated resource planning process, when the utility was trying to cram down our throats a 200 megawatt peaking plant, they knew what I was doing would shut them down, and they shut me down. Okay, so it's clear what we're doing. We have to show people that the cheapest and fastest solution is way cheaper and way faster than what they're trying to get us to do. Right now, we are being sidetracked by this AI stuff, which is no minor sidetrack, as Dan said. It's doubling the amount of energy being used in Louisiana, and probably more than doubling.
No. It's 2.3 times the amount of electricity use of the city of New Orleans annually.
All right, and then it's probably more than doubling the amount of fossil fuel the state's using for electricity generation. Okay, so it's a big deal. I would love to be able to stop it. Someone tell me what that I could really do to stop it. Okay, I'd be really doing it. I would write the letter. Okay, but I don't see that happening. I will do it. I'll write the letter, but I don't have seriously real expectations about it. But I do think if somebody can argue that AI is a waste of money, maybe that would help. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you're going to win that argument.
Well, I'd like to hear Michael's opinion, because Taurus, Michael, what do you think about the need for AI?
I think that China is the biggest threat to the United States, and they are close to being on par, if not ahead of us, in AI and drone technology. And if we end up going to war with them, AI will be the difference. You just have to look at what's happening in Ukraine to understand that drone swarms are the answer to the future, and drone swarms are going to be controlled by AI-based systems. It's just a question of military might for me. The practical implications of the economy are good. You know, AI is going to help grow the economy, may hurt jobs, but the need for it is, in my opinion, 100% based on the military applications. And if we want to maintain a free world, then we have to win that race. I agree with
Hey,
100%.
this is Jenkins. I'd like to cut in for a second.
Part of this argument with AI is being advanced at the moment that Intel and AMD in Austin are promoting their product lines in China at the moment. I happen to know this because I have a nephew who's worked at AMD for years, and he is manager level. He has primarily been running an entire section in India. And I talked to him a week and a half ago. It was a conversation about a complicated issue. And he said, I've got to leave you. I am talking to China at 8:30. They have at AMD that 6-inch by 6-inch chip chunk. And there's discussion that Trump wants the federal government to take over Intel so that they can promote lines of products with China. I have no idea why AMD or Intel would be doing that kind of business with China. But I did see in one note on what's called Newsbreak that the federal government would get an 18% cut on cells. That's all I have to say. I don't know where to take it. I know that AI is with us. When I was working with A&M San Antonio, the computer department was connected to the business department. They broke away and really expanded rapidly. San Antonio, Texas has enormous government expenditures developing AI here. It's just an extraordinary thing, and particularly on military bases. But I've taken Science Magazine for years. I get it every week, and I am seeing AI discoveries in virtually every other magazine. And they are doing immediate, fast solutions. One solution issue I saw was to create with instruments a type of glue that can work underwater. I think this is 3 weeks, maybe a month ago. AI came up with 128 product lines. They started working with product lines, and one concern is creating a tool that will lift the special mineral globules off the bottom of the ocean. That's AI. It's here. Thank you.
Basically, what you're saying is we aren't even beginning to appreciate maybe what the potential is.
That's exactly right. It's, I mean, the solutions come so fast, and
Okay,
it's in
Tor.
medicine. It's in medicine. I mean, science shows this stuff everywhere.
Okay, Tor has his hand up. Go ahead, Tor.
Yeah, I put a 25-minute video that details the progress in protein folding. And that's a good example of what AI can do, because it sped up the
Yes.
rate that they could understand how DNA is translates to protein by about 10,000 times. I mean, it's a key step in medicine to understand how proteins fold. And where it used to take an entire department of scientists a decade to figure out one protein, they've now decoded close to 400,000.
Yes, indeed. And these are massive. I mean, the structures are just massive. And it takes something that sophisticated to look at those natural products.
Yeah, but again, the application in material science, in healthcare, anything to do with genetics, again, it's just where you have to do pattern matching. It's revolutionizing X-rays and what they can resolve.
Well, let me ask you this question. Since we are focused in this meeting on solving climate change, with inventions that we promote or inventions we try to discourage, okay, does anyone think there might be a silver bullet to solving the climate problem coming out of AI?
Well, I can point that you need to adapt your crops for a wilder weather world, more drought tolerant, more flood tolerant. These are characteristics you can take from other plants and apply to your staple crops. It's already being done in strains of corn and soybeans. It just speeds all that up. So if a farmer says, I can't grow whatever I used to grow in Arizona because it's gotten too bad, well, no, we have this.
Mhm.
And so when you look at the basics of the future, our healthcare, our education, our food supplies, our military security, AI figures in all of those in major ways.
Yeah,
Again,
I can't help but think that the way we've been plodding along, we have ignored inventions because they don't have someone else's stamp of approval. Can AI see all that stuff? That's what I find really weird. I mean, what I mean by, give you an example, about 10 years ago, I noticed that energy conservation was given the wrong definition on the internet in Wikipedia. And they called it energy conservation, and they actually called it, they described it as energy efficiency by another name. And I say, no, that's not what energy conservation is. That's one way to do energy conservation, but it's not energy conservation. So I edited it. Wikipedia, anyone can edit. In less than 5 minutes, it was put back like it was, because people were stuck with their own idea of what it was and don't let anyone else affect it. Similarly, what happened with my invention of brain scanners, other people got credit for it, even though they didn't prove what they did and I did. So these kinds of defects in the way we understand things seem to be pervasive anyway. Can AI see through that? And I'm wondering if they can.
well, what I do know is that they had these helmets of sensors to map neural activity by the electrical fields. And they were able to come up with lesson plans for autistic and disabled children because they could see how various pathways in the brain were either, they talked about the distance between parts of the brain and where things didn't form the way they should. And so they were able to say, well, it's going to be, they're at this level of this, and they could get a much more precise of what the capacity of the child was. So they could train a lesson plan to say, if they're at a very low in this area, we're going to take that very gradually. Again, it's revolutionizing autistic lesson plans.
So what's it called when AI reaches sort of the human awareness sensey? What's it called?
Well,
AI is
Consciousness,
How, I think.
consciousness.
yeah, so a certain amount of consciousness, and then if we ask AI how we can stop climate change, they'll wipe out the humans, right?
Right, right.
The robots will wipe. I mean, isn't that like what we're heading towards?
well, that's Hollywood. Hollywood takes a hold of almost anything new and makes it scary.
You can say that. You can say that, but there's a lot of irony when you think about what I brought up about this one Meta facility and what you brought up about what's going on in Antarctica. And so what's happening in Louisiana is going to affect what's happening in Antarctica, and what's happening in Antarctica is going to, we're all going to have to move inland. But eventually, what's going to win? The computer genius, or are we going to be able to, control it? Or is there going to be anything left to control?
I'd like to ask one question. Do any of you subscribe to AI?
I don't pay for it.
I avoid subscribing to it.
I subscribe to two AI, and I find it helps me a lot. Now I'm on a low level of intelligence in this committee or this group, but I use it and it helps me a whole lot.
Well, give us some examples, Richard.
Just simple things. Air conditioning problems that I have on a small level, the difference between what I have and what I can get and how much better it would be. And it puts it in simple terms. It's like that Khan Academy guy that came out years ago and Bill Gates invested in him, and it's turned out to be a wonderful learning experience. To me, it's a wonderful learning experience. I'm not intelligent enough to explain it to all of you on the level that you are, but for me, it's better than anything I've ever had in my life.
I mean,
Well, I
we
definitely use
were
it.
talking in the office today about education and how we can't get good companies onto New Orleans because the education system sucks, and you're not going to want to bring your family here unless you're going to send them to 2 private schools or 1 or 2 charter schools. But there's not a whole lot of good choices for education here. But AI and people who are harnessing it with software are creating endless teachers where each individual student can have a teacher over their back helping them learn. And I mean, just in education alone, Richard, to your point, it is very helpful, and it could create a whole new breed of students and young adults and adults. But I just the fact that there's just going to be such a huge carbon production in order to produce all that intelligence is going to be it's going to be a race to the finish.
I just want to say, in the perspective of Louisiana, the governor of Louisiana had a mandate that went on through 2 or 3 different governors to help protect the coast. And there were billions and billions of dollars committed to this effort. And literally 2 months ago, the governor said, I'm completely going to stop supporting this process. And it's just a small burden on the state, and we're undermining the welfare of some crab fishermen, and therefore I'm going to stop it. And I do not know the order of magnitude and which one's bigger, but the consensus, as I've heard, the biggest carbon sinks on the planet are the wetlands. And he's going to let our wetlands go to shit. Now, I don't know whether the wetland sequestration potential eclipses are as trivial compared to carbon dioxide produced by these fossil fuel plants. But it's the same government in Louisiana in Baton Rouge that's doing the 1-2 step in the wrong direction.
That's being done in Washington, and that's why the governor of Louisiana, in my opinion, is doing what he's doing. He's following orders.
Well, yeah, that's probably a lot to it. Well, anyway, we are at 9 o'clock, and I hope nobody felt like they were slighted. Okay? You felt slighted, Dan?
I feel so slighted, Myron. I mean, as much as I want to know what you were going to say, I want to know who told you not to say it.
I can't, obviously, I can't do
You
that.
can't tell us that Kay told you not to say it.
I can't tell you that.
You can't tell me that Kay told you not to say it.
I can
Okay.
tell you privately, but I
Okay.
can't tell you in this meeting. Okay?
All right. Fair enough.
Okay.
Hey, one quick note about AI. I saw where Delta Airlines is using AI to determine ticket prices. They are using it now for over 3%, and before the end of the year, they intend to be using it for 20% of the domestic flights to determine what to set the pricing at. So, practical use of AI. Also, my first partner that was considered to be in one of the top system designers in the world back in 1990, and he hires software people and pays them close to $400,000. He's completely working on AI projects right now, or running the teams of people that are working on them. So that's all he's doing now.
Okay, I think Tor has his hand up because he's exercising.
I know, it's inspiring me.
Anyway,
I
it's
just
9
want
o'clock. I want to
to-
shut this down. Okay. because it's better to keep meetings shorter than too long. So
True, true.
say good night. Hope you guys found it interesting. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.